Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. The webinar of this morning will talk about the submission interface, the tool that all TCs will have to start using soon for submitting their documents to the CEN Management Center. My name is Els and I will be moderating the webinar in the background. So welcome, everybody. I just would like to remind you that you are all muted during the presentation, so you are not able to speak out loud, but please, we do invite you to use the Q&A panel to submit your questions. The speakers will be having a look regularly on the questions so that hopefully all your questions are replied by the end of the presentation. Should that not be the case, please bear in mind that we will make a Q&A report available via the website and that you will be informed once that is available. We are recording this webinar, so you will also be provided with a link to the recording as well as the presentation, so you can have a look if you want to. So without further ado, let's go straight into the topic. And just on this slide, I would like to present my colleagues that will present you the submission interface. So please, Melanie, Sebastian, and Gonzalo, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. So my name is Gonzalo Sensao. I'm the account manager in the digital solutions team, so also responsible for the production department in CCMC. And I will give you a short introduction on why we are presenting this new tool. And then later on, Melanie and Sebastian will guide you through the tool and some of the new facilities that we are providing to you. So essentially today, for those that are purely CEN secretaries, you are used to provide documents using eTrends, which in a sense is basically a repository, so where you drop documents, and then of course we have a notification system that is connected to LiveLink and triggers a series of actions. As some of you may be aware, of course, in this situation, this submission is completely disconnected from the work item itself in terms of connection to the metadata of the project, and this has also created some issues in the past, and always sometimes some confusion in the submission of the document. So with this new submission interface, what we are also trying to do is to reduce the weak points of the current system, which are in essence, errors in the uploads. There are systems of folders. You could mistakenly use the wrong folder. The system is not very user-friendly. And of course, as I said, there is no connection whatsoever to the metadata. It could be an error on your side. It could be an error on our side. There is still quite relatively manual process. And of course, this can also increase the number of errors. The transparency of the process as such is also not so good because through eTrends, you cannot see where the project status is. And in terms of traceability, follow-up, everything is manually and email based. In terms of what this new submission interface will bring us to and what will allow. So as I said, one of the main changes is that you will be able to provide your document connected to the relevant work item. So as an example, if you have an issue with the work item, for instance, if you are not in a good phase or if you are not with an active work item, you will not be able to provide a document to CCMC. So this is extremely important because it can if you need to take an action on our side, this will enable to know upfront that you need to take an action. As I said, the submission is completely connected to the work item metadata, which means that also in terms of the submission to CCMC, there are some automatic steps that will happen. Further on, there is a validation of the submission. So if there is an error or if there are things missing in the submission, you will not be able to submit the document to CCMC. And once you have submitted and has been validated through the process, you will see what is the status of your document. Now, in terms of the expected benefits of this new submission interface, so we hope that this will be a very user-friendly interface. It will for sure reduce the errors with the submission of the documents. It will increase the efficiency and the transparency of this whole process. And in terms of traceability and monitoring, it will also be clear for us to monitor where we are. Now, the main and important message for all you to be aware this is also closely connected with the discontinuation of live links. So this submission interface will also replace eTrends next week. So all documents provided to CCMC need to be done through this submission interface. This is extremely important. We will try to communicate as much as possible to all the TC secretaries. Do not hesitate to share this information with your colleagues that you know that they are not participating today. We have another training in a week's time. But this is important that from the 28th November on, we will not accept submissions through the trends. And now I will give the word to Melanie to go through the tool itself.
Yeah, thank you, Gonzalo. Good morning. So my name is Melanie and I'm an IT project manager, and I've been following up with my colleagues from the production team the whole project on creating a submission interface. So today I will explain to you how you can access submission interface. We'll go through the homepage and the possibilities you have on the homepage. Then we will try I will open a form for submitting files, and I will explain to you the basics of what is on the form, and Gonzalo will step in again to explain to you things related to harmonized standards. And then we will try submitting a couple of documents so that you can see what happens when we do so. And then Sébastien will walk you through image quality check, and then we will let you know how to get in touch with us if you have any difficulties using the new application. I will show you a couple of slides of our quick start guide that will be made available on the website. And also I will ask you to really bear with us. Submission interface is really slow at the moment, but a developer is like working on it the whole day to try and make it faster. It's not slow as in taking ages, but it's 20 seconds to display something, which is extremely slow when you're waiting for a page to load. It's not when you need to get dressed in the morning. So how to access submission interface? You have a direct link, which I will ask you not to use before the 28th. It's already on, so you can have a look if you want to, but try to not already submit documents, because we haven't made the necessary corrections for you to be able to properly submit things. On the 28th, I will post an IT news on the CEN expert portal to let you know that it's fine and you can go on and submit documents. Then you will also be able to reach submission interface via the CEN expert portal in the application and services that are displayed when you connect. So you will have a link to submission interface, as well as a user manual and a quick start guide to get you started. So how do you log in is the same as usual. So we've got a standard identity federation that allows you to log in with your ISO or CEN login and password. And who has access? CEN TC secretaries and CEN secretary support team as registered in the global directory. These roles are allocated by CCMC for CEN secretaries, so they're an officer role, so only CCMC is allowed to allocate them to people. Comes with your role as a TC secretary. And then the CEN secretary support team, that is open to national administrators to allocate to people who need it. So just a couple of slides before we dive into the application. So this is the home page, which is presented as a dashboard showing work items with different functionalities and different possibilities and a whole lot of information that should be useful to you. I'm not going to stay too long on the slide because we're going to go see the real thing. And then basically when you hit a link to open a form, you have a form that is presenting you a certain number of metadata that you need to confirm if you want to go any further, and the possibility to upload different files, browse some text of explanation if you need to, and with the mark of what is mandatory and what is not. Then once you have submitted the file, then you can browse your status in the dashboard. You can as well see what was submitted. You can also see on the dashboard if it's ready to be submitted or already submitted. And you also have a button to correct your submission in case it's been rejected by CCMC. But we're going to go to the live demo because I think that's more interesting than just a couple of slides. And then you will be able to experience the speed of submission interface at the moment. So I'm just going to connect to submission interface here. So I'm connected to CEN TC. So this is our quality environment. So where people, our colleagues are validating an application when it's being developed by IT. So it's not the production environment. So whatever I do, I'm not going to mess up with TC259 work items. So what you can see on the screen, so is the dashboard, is a TC view. As if I was a TC and I had several TCs. So you can see I've got the CEN TC 249 and I've got as well a Senelec TC 9X. So you've got different functionalities on the top, filters and sorting buttons. So the filters allows you to select, for example, if I have several TCs and I just want to work in one, so I can easily select I want to work in my TC 249. And just apply, and then I only have the work items for TC249 that are displayed. Then you have the work item number that is displayed, so you can also search and sort on the work item number. Then you have the standard reference, if any, so that file is left blank if you don't have any standard reference yet because it's too early for that stage. Then you have the stage code that is displayed. So the stage code is actually the milestone as in the plan you have in Projects Online when you open a work item in Projects Online, that one is the milestone. So it's not like all the existing stage codes, it's not just the milestone stage codes. Then you have a deadline by when this document is to be provided for the stage code. And then you have the submission type. So if your work item is ready to be submitted for a draft or formal vote or for a draft for inquiry. You can see here on the very first one that the work item is ready to be submitted either for a first working draft or for a draft for inquiry. So that one is like an open options at the moment. That's if you don't have any first working draft, you're not being blocked. If your first working draft is a little bit late, you're not being blocked. Then once you have submitted something, you have the submission date that is displayed. And then after that, you have the status of what is displayed. So at the moment, everything showing on the screen is not started. And then you can see in the selection column, you have a link that will allow you to open the form to do the actual submission. Now, if I want to see, for example, it's like an easy access to what needs to be done or what you've done already. I want to check what happened with my work items. I mean, it's easy to see, okay, nothing rejected, good. Means whatever I've provided to CCMC is fine. I can see what is submitted, not in that TC. Okay, I will change the TC. And then it should be better, yeah. So you can see in that TC that I've got 3 work items submitted and they're submitted, so CMC didn't do anything with those yet, they're just submitted. Now let me just go back to one, if you go to that line here, I'm showing with my mouse. So this is the first working draft or the draft for inquiry. When you click on the start button, it's giving you the option to choose one or the other. So it's not like you click and then you have to figure out yourself inside the form what you need to provide. They're custom forms. So basically for the first working draft, if you click on first working draft, you have the custom form for a first working draft and likely also for a draft for inquiry. If they're different, then 2 different forms will be displayed so that you are guided through the applications. And you don't need to think yourself or what difference is it between the first working draft and the draft for inquiry? What do I need to provide? What do I not need to provide? If we look now on the dashboard, for example, if I take a work item that was rejected by CCMC, so I'm going to click view. Like I said, bear with me. The application is slow at the moment, but hopefully we're going to have something displayed in a couple of seconds. Okay, it's still doing something. It's really slow. I know it's unsettling because we can't see that it's doing something, but it is. Well, it did all the other times I tried, so hopefully it's still doing something. Okay, as expected, I'm not getting much cooperation from Submission Interface at the moment. That's all right. I'm just going to reload it. As you can see, this would be extremely slow for a production environment, so it is being worked on.
Melanie, it's maybe a good idea to remind people that they can enter their questions in the Q&A panel.
Yes, in the meantime, if you already have questions, please feel free to do so. While we are waiting for Submission Interface to be in a better mood and be with us, so that I can show you what happens when one of their documents is rejected.
Yes, there are no questions for the moment, so
there it is.
They might still come. Ah, voila. Yes.
So we have one form that is open. It happens that you provided something to CCMC, but something was not correct in what you provided. So when you open the form, you can see what work item it is about. You've got the standard reference. You can see your TC, and just in case you've got several TCs, always useful. And then what was the submission type? And then CCMC will, when they reject something, they will log in our database why they did the rejection, which you can see directly on the submission interface here. So you know, without contacting production team, without them contacting you, you know what was wrong with your submission. Then you can also see what was submitted. So you know that, yeah, okay, this is the justification for undated normative reference is missing. Indeed, it is missing. I didn't submit it because it's not checked. So that is something that could happen. In such cases, you can just press the correct submission, and that is opening the form. And that is the same form as other forms that you would open. Is exactly the same you had the first time when you did your submission. So that form is also giving you work items and that reference TC type of submission, so you know where you are. It's giving you metadata related to directives, policies, standardization requests. And that is something that you have to check. If you don't check the box here, Submission Interface is not letting you do anything. Then you've got the submission language. The default is English because most of things are submitted in English, but you can choose French or German should you be submitting a reference version in French or in German. Then the fields with the little stars, they're the ones that are mandatory. So these ones you have to provide something to CCMC. So for the revisable format, graphic files if there's any in your revisable format, and the PDF format. The other fields, they have a kind of double check security. So, or you don't need to provide anything, and you need to confirm that you don't need to provide anything so that we are sure that you remember that maybe you need to provide anything, you've seen it, but you're willingly not providing anything. That is the case for most fields. So they're not mandatory, but you kind of have to say, yes, I know that I'm not providing anything. You have sometimes the double checks, for example, for the justification of normative references or the identification of patents. There you have to Either confirm that you've got nothing to give to CCMC because it's not relevant, and then there's no possibility to upload a file, or you say yes, it is relevant. I have references that are not covered by the usual rules, and so I say yes, and then the submission interface is changing and it's making you, the file is becoming mandatory, so you have to provide something to CCMC. Likewise here, if you, once you've checked one, you have to choose one or the other. Then, for example, if you've got this type, this is not mandatory. So if you want to load something, that's possible. But if you say, no, I don't need to load anything, then you cannot load something. So it's blocking you because or you have something to load or you don't, and you confirm that you don't. So that's the whole form. So this is a very a big and complex form because it's a harmonized standard. Then should there be any field missing? Like for example, you want to provide something different, that one is available here for the production team. You have the others field that is available where you can provide anything else. You can provide a zip file. Mind you that the zip file is being checked when arriving at CCMC. So you can only load formats that are accepted by CCMC security team. You can also leave a comment for the production team. So if you insert a comment in there, it's being inserted in our database in a place where they know that they have to look to see if a comment has arrived together with your document. Once you are happy with everything you filled in, then you just submit, or if you've been interrupted and want to start again later, you can cancel. I will now leave the floor to Gonzalo, maybe, so that you can explain the specific fields for harmonized documents if you want to. And then I will show you a couple of submissions and see how it works. And so you can see how you will be able to work with the tool once it's a bit faster.
So, Melanie, if you can just scroll up a little bit to the heading of the submission interface. Yeah, so I think, first of all, just to highlight that we have included now in the submission interface some information related to the metadata, of course, also linked to the harmonization elements. So you will find the link to the directive. Some of the new elements that we have been working on is to be a little bit more clear about what is expected for each piece of legislation. So what is the assessment method, if you need the Annex Z, and if, of course, the method for citations in the official journal. If you see when you are going through the submission that there is some information that is not correct, do not hesitate to communicate this to CCMC. If you scroll down, I think when we go through the forms, what we have tried to do, and Melanie already explained a little bit, you have the elements connected to the document itself. Of course, we need to be sure that you provide Annex Z, also in link with the current practice, and some of the elements that need to be included for a harmonized standard. So if you have undated normative references, you are supposed to justify this purpose. So you need to provide a justification in case you do that. If you scroll down a little bit, we also have the unusual references. So basically, when we don't have references, or when we have the references to documents that are not CEN, ISO, or IC, we also need a justification. In this case, we also need a TC decision allowing it. Then, in terms of new approach directives or regulations that imply the use of risk assessment, so you should also add it. For instance, in LVD, this is the case at the moment. Going through the next check is the checklist for harmonized standards. You are also supposed to provide it during the submission of the document, or upon the submission of the document. So you also need to include it here. One element that is a little bit disconnected from the harmonization, but I would like to highlight as well, is the last one in the list is related to the patents. So if you are aware, so in a way, for harmonized standards, those are the main highlights. And of course, during the usage, and when you start using it, if there are additional questions, we will come. And back to you, Melanie.
Thank you, Gonzalo. So yes, now we will try a submission and see how that goes in the current environment. But before that, I will also show you one of the little question marks. So this is giving you text if you're not sure what to drop in that field. This is giving you an explanation and hyperlinks to where you can find information. So the team has been putting them on every field, so it's easy for you to be guided in case you have any doubt. So now I'm going to try to upload a document, and we will see how that goes. For CEN, the submission interface is integrated with image quality check. So as you know, you have to provide a certain standards for technical figures, and it's been integrated directly in submission interface. So I will show you what happens with submission interface if you do not basically provide what is needed. Just bear with me with a second. I'm preparing my files. And I'm going to show you a figure file, not OK, submission. So I have to provide my revisable format. So you can just drop it, or you can navigate the hyperlink browse. See, because in my Word file, I have figure files that are inserted, then image quality check is asking me to provide graphic files. Should there be no file inserted, this is going to be no longer highlighted and no longer available for you to provide graphic files. So it's really guiding you. So this also means for you, if you drop your Word knowing that there are graphic files, and then this you can no longer provide graphic files, then there's already something wrong with your submission. So the graphic files, because you have from 1 to hundreds of files, that have to be in a zip file. And then I will provide the required PDF format. So I'll just drag and drop. And then we will make it simple. Now, I don't need any of those. And none of those. So now I've provided like the bare minimum, and I confirm. So I can show you what happens if I say I haven't confirmed, and if I say submit, I get an error message already. So not allowed. And this becomes red. So you can remember, I've realized when testing that I would often forget to confirm that one. So I confirm, I've checked my data, all my file, I'm happy, I submit. So while the analysis is going on, you've got a little timer showing you that is going on. And then here it's saying that something happens, something is not correct, so you have to check indicated errors. So on top of your form, this is where image quality check is informing you something is wrong with image quality check. So this is really image quality check, not submission interface. And there it's giving you the link to your report, so you can see what is wrong with your images directly from submission interface, should you wish to do so. And then you've got the report, the usual report that is provided. So that's show a submission that is not working. Error message will remain displayed so that you can take the time to read them and click them once you're done with them. They're not just popping up at your face and then disappearing before you have any chance to do anything with them. So this didn't work. If you're going to resubmit straight away, you can just remove the documents that did not work, make your necessary corrections, or maybe it's just like a miss on your part. There's nothing that needs to be corrected. You just need to So here we've got a little analysis of the file that I dropped. I can remove it. And then you can see here, I've just dropped a Word file that's got no figure files. I can no longer give graphic files. So I can give my PDF format, and then I can like, for example, say that I do have some of those. So I can drop my risk assessment, for example, and then drop a checklist for CEN, for example, there, and then I say that I have patent rights, so I'm giving the necessary justification as a PDF, for example, and then I can just give a message to production colleagues, and then normally my form is fine now. I can submit. So when the time it's analyzing and submitting, if you've forgotten your work item, you can always scroll back up to see it. It's not bothering the application. You can do that. So now all my files went through. It was fine, at least on my side. And then I've got a little summary of what I've loaded, so that in case you have any doubt, you know, when people work really fast, sometimes you think, oh, did I do that? Well, you have a little summary, so you can be reassured that yes, you've done it, or no, actually you haven't done it. And you can see what are the files that were provided. The summary is only showing you the files that were provided, because submission interface is meant to exchange file with CCMC, not to display data. So if you want to see the data, you need to go to Projects Online as usual. And that's it for my little demonstration on submission interface. So I will give the floor I will go back to the presentation, and I will give the floor to Sébastien, who can walk you through image quality check and see with how that is going. Going back to the presentation.
Hi everyone, I'm Sebastian and I'm working in the production department here at CCMC, and I'm going to walk through the requirements and how the image quality check works, and workarounds, how to correct figures or the insertion in the Word document and so on. So you have here the direct link that can be used already, and it's easily accessible directly from the CEN Expert area via Projects Online. So you connect as you would usually do, and on the top right you do have the image quality check, which is highlighted here in yellow. Just a summary here regarding the requirements. So we have the naming convention. The best practice would be to use the top arrow, like the 001. If you have subfigures, you add the letter at the end, A, B, C, and so on, starting with a letter A and so on for annexes. And if you have, let's say, figures that needs to be in a table, you can label it with the table, number of the table, and underscore the number of the figure, which is in this table. And if it's just like a floating picture, let's say floating image, it can be tagged with the clause number, CL for clause, and underscore the number of the figure appearing in that clause. This is not the biggest importance here. The biggest importance is to have no spaces nor special symbols in the name of the figure files. Otherwise, the links will be broken, the figures will not be linked properly, not showing properly, and the submission interface IQC will not be accepting this submission. It will be rejected. The format, as you all know, is TIFF only. The resolution of 600 dpi, the scaling output size of 100%. I will show you how to check that later. And no layers. And you have the size, maximum size that remains unchanged. Those requirements, of course, they're always available on the CEN bus. The insertion of the figure and linking of the figure is well important. There is, again, I will show you a bit later on how to do that properly. And lastly, we do have the equations, which should be drawn in math type or by using the built-in word equation tool. We are here on the homepage of the IQC. Pretty straightforward. You do have the blank space in the middle where you can either drop a zip file, or you can select the choose button to browse your computer. The zip file that's there that should be uploaded should contain the Word document and the figure files. It can be either like all in the one zip folder, or one zip folder and a subfolder within it, but not deeper than that. Once you've dropped your file, it will run the report, well, run the checks, and a pop-up window displayed on the left will appear on your screen. Or also you do see that you can download the report, which will be then an Excel file, and the screenshots are on the right side are displaying this. So the first tab that you see, it's image. Images will check the figure file, and we'll check for the naming. So if there are any spaces and so on, it will be displayed and asking you to rename the figures and reinserting them in the Word document. It will check as well the resolution and the compression and layers. I forgot to mention everything that you will that will be a problem would be highlighted in orange yellow. As you can see here on the third, well, we are on the second tab now, and the third line, we do have orange image not link. We have check marks that are missing. The only exception is for the column is link absolute. It remains orange and is checked. That means that the images are correctly linked. And we see as well the different columns checking the size, the scaling, the cropping. And as I mentioned, should anything be outside of our requirements, they will be highlighted and there will be a comment on the pop-up window. This is at the last, on the further right. And in the Excel file, it's so in the middle, it's work in progress. We are trying to move to have the styling and the layout changed to reflect what is on the pop-up window. So in the previous slide, it was mentioned that the figure was not linked properly, and here is how it should be linked properly. So within your Word document, when you go to the Insert tab, you select the picture, choose your device, and select the folder where your figures are. Once you selected your figure, click on the arrow next to Insert and select Insert and Link. This is here as well in order to check if a figure is properly linked in your Word document. You can check that by going to File on the top ribbon and click on Info, and then on the top on the bottom right you do see the little icon stating Editing Link to File. This will bring you the other window to the right with the different links, and you do have you can see if they are linked properly, the item will be okay. Also, we already have quite a few comments regarding like, what if I do have many figures? This will be, of course, delaying the responsiveness of Word document. It's not as, well, not that it's not easy, but it takes more time to save and so on. You can avoid this by going through this window and you select all your figures and you can untick the Save Picture in Documents. This will keep the link, but it will not save the picture within the document, which will therefore will lose a bit of weight of your document. The other part what is often the scaling in Word, and when we say that there is no cropping or resizing within the Word document, this is because the output size then will be totally different. When you see on the right side here, we do have 8 and width of 100%. That means that the figure that you have provided as an individual file is the same size that there is in the Word document. If you provide a figure file that's super big and then you need to reduce it within Word, the output size is totally different. And in XML rendering, it will provide a picture that is way too big for the layout of the document. And to check this size, then the easiest way is to double click on the picture in Word, and you have the format ribbon that will appear. The little arrow, pop-up arrow needs to be clicked, and you can check the size output. This one here is a bit tricky. This is reporting the Word legacy format pictures. So legacy images are objects, images coming from old documents, old format of Word, basically from .doc instead of docx. It can be that they've been copy-pasted from an old document, that an old document was used to create a new one. It happens, and it needs to be changed because it's not entirely supported by the new tools that we are using. And what can usually be done easily is to remove the figure from the document and reinsert it the way it was shown before. And that will provide, well, insert the image in the correct format. This is here an example on how to spot them. When you are in your document and you select them, you can see on the left side, you have square outline selection. While on the right side, you do have, oh, I forgot to change that. This is not square, but more rounded selection. So indeed, the right side is the correct one, the correct outline selection. You may have as well in your TC old documents that you do have in doc that would need to be transformed in docx because doc are not supported anymore. To do so, you can open your doc document, and from file, you can convert it. Once you've clicked on convert it, you have the option to check for issues and compatibility. And when prompted, you can select all the versions to show in select all options so that it will check for the disparity and will translate your every item and every link of your document into the right one. Next step is to save the document as a docx. And then you close your document, you reopen it, and all the images are linked. It's always best though to double check that those are linked in order not to miss any. And the last tab of the report will be for the word shapes. So word shapes could be from a text box that was accidentally created, an auto shape, a shape. All those need to be removed, but of course it's not always easy to find them. I will show you how to in the next slide. An important point here is to highlight that the embedded objects mat type, those are the equations drawn using the mat type tool, and those are not blocking, which is why you can see that in this example we do have there is one mat type equation found, and there are two other formats, but only two are counted at the end. So the total amount is what is blocking. So all the equations drawn in mat type will appear mostly for information, but are not to be taken into account because they are not blocking your document to be accepted. In order to find the different shapes in Word, my first advice would be to enable the paragraph mark for better visibility. It will highlight where you have spaces, returns, soft returns, and so on. And sometimes it can be very helpful to have this highlighted, well, enabled, I'm sorry. The next step would be to open the navigation pane. Easiest way would be to press Ctrl F on your keyboard. and you have the navigation pane appearing. And when you click on the magnifying glass, you can select graphics. Graphics will highlight every object in your document, most of the time hidden, and you will have as well the figures will be highlighted as well, and you can navigate them by using the little arrows. The example that is there with the blue anchor, which is highlighted in yellow, this is an example of a shape that was hidden behind the word necessary. You do see a very little square, gray square, and this is what's blocking. So the best way to remove it is to click on the blue anchor, right click and cut. So this was it for this presentation. The help desk, I would say, hotline would be for questions and issues can be brought directly to production@censenelec.eu. And don't forget as well that there will be the guidance on the CEN expert portal and on the CEN bus as well. But if nothing works at all, this will be led by IT support at censenelec.eu.
Yes, that is because most of the time we are informed, we're not user of applications we provide to our stakeholders. So most of the time you are the one telling us, oh, this is not working. So thank you always for informing us. And you can, if this should ever happen, you can inform us directly at IT support at censenelec.eu. So we've reached the end of the presentation. And so now we will look at the question and answers we had. So we're going to be muted for a little while so we can browse your question and see to answer them as soon as possible. So, okay, so we have a first question, which is the Annex ZA has to be uploaded separately, but it's part of the final draft standard. So we have Sophie with us from the production team. So she's your main contact person with those things, and she will reply to the question.
Yes, the Annex ZA should be uploaded separately, please.
So we have another question on OSD. So how will be managed the drafts prepared with OSD? And so Sophie is going to reply live for us.
So these documents will be handled outside of the submission interface for the moment.
So we have another question about the stable documents. Indeed, in the past, translation bodies had access directly to e-trans to get any first deliveries that was entering CCMC. So the stable documents, and it's good that someone asked the questions, will be posted from submission interface to e-trans from the 28th of November to the 5th of December. And then when we do the migration on Nuxeo, then they will be posted onto Nuxeo with the same type of reports available to run to see what has entered CCMC. So we've got another question about the deadlines shown in the submission interface, which are confusing. Yes, I confirm that they are confusing. So the deadlines, we've realized last minute that there was a glitch in the calculation of the deadline. And I think that the only deadline displayed is the first working draft displayed. So we're going to adjust that before we deploy in production, or just after we've deployed in production. This is something quite small to adjust, but you will get the deadline corresponding to your submission.
Melanie, I will reply to the question on the risk assessment. So the risk assessment is used in particular for the LVD standards. There are not many on the CEN side, but there are a few. And basically for some of the LVD standards, you need to make a risk assessment. What are the safety hazards that are covered for this piece of legislation? And then the file should be provided to CCMC on the submission as well. There is also a question about the as consultant assessment. There were a few that have been questioned during the training. There will be, for harmonized standards, when you are at the formal vote phase, there will be a place to provide the table of comments from the as consultant, as well as from the comments from the inquiry. If you are prior to that, and in case you had consultant assessment at first working draft, our suggestion for the time being would be to provide it within the other field in case you want to provide it.
Okay, so we also have a question that is it possible to have a single view of a list of all the files which are to be submitted per TCs? You can display on the screen up to 100 items and use the filter. If you would filter on the not started, then you would have only the ones that need to be displayed. Of course, if you want specifically things that you need to display in the following days or in the following weeks, then you would need also to filter on the deadline, for example, to see how you can arrange your screen to see what needs to be provided to CCMC. So regarding e-trans emitting daily alerts, unfortunately, I'm not 100% sure how Nuxeo is working. So I think there will be notifications, but unfortunately I haven't been following up that project, but you will be definitely informed together with everyone when the launch of Nuxeo is done. So we have a last questions that about a subcommittee. So unfortunately, the selection is done on the TC because submission of documents is normally done at TC level. So there's no sub-selections for SCs or working group.
Okay, that was the last question. No, there's one new one just popped in. I just would like to remind the attendees that we intend to share the recording as well as the presentation used today, and that we have a second webinar starting at 11:30. If you should be working on both CEN and CENELEC level, at 11:30 we will have a similar webinar, but then more in particular for CENELEC drafts and standards. So should you be working on both levels, please feel free to join again at 11:30.
Okay, so as you said, there's the last question that popped up. We still have some time to answer that one.
Yeah.
So so as I said, please refrain from from connecting to submission interface now. It is possible. It depends on your TC. I don't know what TC it is, but it is possible that in your TC there's no document to submit to CCMC. So it's not all documents are appearing, only documents that are ready for a submission.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. There's another one that just came in.
I can answer this one. So one of the purposes of the submission interface is, of course, to implement and to endorse the timeframes of the projects. There will be some flexibility during the introduction of the submission interface, but long run and in line with the current technical board instructions, the technical bodies are supposed to follow the timeframe of the project and to take the necessary measures to adapt the timeframe if they are late with the submission of the document within the respective deadlines. I wanted to highlight that you have the one change option that can be used before the deadline to submission to inquiry. You also have the 9-month tolerance, so there are several possibilities to adapt that. At the moment, we will give some flexibility in terms of submission interface and will not necessarily be blocked if you are slightly over the deadline, but bear in mind that we are deleting projects which are after the deadline for submission. There is a clear request from the technical board that we need to follow the deadlines, and it's the technical committee secretary responsibility to ensure that any necessary adaptations are done before we are late. So this is the main message for this question.
Okay, we have got again another question. So someone with many documents in submission interface and would like that the heading of the columns is moving together with the screen. So this is definitely the type of feedback that you should send to production colleagues so that they can collect all the feedback. So it's the very first launch of submission interface as official, not a pilot applications. And so we do expect changes. We have also put on the site things that were too dangerous to do before the 2018 because we have the time constraint with the migration of e-trons. So definitely give the feedback of what you would like to be improved. Because as soon as it's deployed in production, we're going to start touching it again. So the faster you come your feedback, the faster we can take it into account.
Okay, thank you, Melanie, Gonzalo, and Sebastian, and Sophie as well, of course. I think we can close down the webinar at this point. There are no more questions in the Q&A panel. On the last slide, if I'm not mistaken, we still have some information on our upcoming webinars. The one of the 5th of December might, the 5th of December, sorry, might be interesting for all of you because it's talking about the restart of the health assessment system. So yeah, very useful information on that day. So I would like to thank all the speakers and everybody joining today. As promised, we'll make available the recording and a presentation for you. And should you be interested in Selenek work, please join us at 11:30 again. Thank you very much and see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.